somewhere. That means we're gonna run into one more to be continued tonight from the looks of things. But anyway, Naruhodo, you need to straighten up your posture. That's not a good posture to be in. That's not good for your back.
Order, please. Let us resume proceedings. Witnesses, you will now retake the stand.
Oh, the Tin Pillars. I like their localized name though. Skulkin kind of works.
I presume you heard the Defense Council summation examination.
Oh yeah, Governor. I did, Gov. I did. Mr. and Mr. Skulkin. God blimey! This is going to be hard work. Earlier in this trial, you gave the following testimony about your actions after you entered Windy Banks.
Well, it was bedlam soon as, wasn't it?
It was, Nash, it was. Didn't even have time to pull me dukes out me Lucy lockets. However, that was a lie. You brothers.
Blimey!
On the night in question, you rifled through the items on the victim's counter.
We never done nothing to sore. How'd you figure that
out? Get your story straight, you two.
You will now give formal testimony once again. You will tell the court precisely what happened on the night in question, and this time you will tell the truth.
Each lie that passes your lips serves to increase the severity of your punishment. And that, gentlemen, may deal a crushing blow to your chances of ever seeing the light of day again. A thought worth pondering, perhaps.
Say no more, Gov. We hear ya. We'll blab. We'll squeak. We'll peach.
Okay, remember, I have to pursue them without any dots up on the screen. Illegal entry, the whole truth.
All right, we did knock a few things over, but we weren't rifling for nothing.
It was when we heard the gunshot, see? Made us both jump and all that stuff went flying.
Lummy, it didn't have given a fright. We was thinking the shooter come out the door and get us next.
We stuck everything back where we found it and scarpered straight into him in the back.
We couldn't have shot the pawnbroker, see? We never even had a chance, did we? So you admit to the defense's accusations. You did indeed ransack Mr. Windybank's countertop on the night in question.
Not ransack, Governor, no. That's right, Nash, that's right. It's more like we tidied up, yeah. Sorry. By their own admission, these brothers entered the pawnbrokery under dubious circumstances. However, they panicked and fled on hearing the gunshot, having first made good their mess.
The way you say it, we hardly sound like roughs at all.
We don't, Nash, we don't. Can't he make us sound a bit more cutthroat?
Why?
It can't just be coincidence as these men showed up at Windy Banks that night. There's more to their testimony than meets the eye. I'm sure of it. I'm sorry, Gregson, but I guess you're just gonna constantly be the third Skulkin. Okay, oh, wait, I don't have an option here. Okay. I don't have the option to pursue yet. If that's the case, then why didn't you testify to that effect in the first place?
Well, you know, we ain't exactly squeaky clean, are we?
I'm just gonna pursue, see if I get something. Mr. Ringo Skulkin, do you have something to add?
Eh? What?
Something that was said just now appears to have got you thinking.
Oh, well, yeah. I was just thinking about me bruv, Sulky.
Oh, the one you've lost touch with.
Yeah, blimey. It could be a saint sometimes, that one. Always used to give me a share of his grub when we had anything to eat.
He sounds like a very kind man.
Get out of it. These chips are mine. I'm not sharing.
Did that give it to me? No, that didn't give it to me. Okay, I don't know where I'm pressing! Game! Where am I pressing to get this accolade? So what you're saying is, the sound of the gunshot shocked you so much, you knocked all those things off the counter.
Well, it shocked one of us that much, yeah? This bag of nerves needs to learn to keep this shirt on. Look, it was louder, right?
Blimey, we did Granny would have woken up at the bang. Forgot those words. Okay, can I pursue you?
Excuse me.
Mr. Nashkokin, do you have something to add? Eh? What? Something that was said just now appears to have got you thinking.
Oh, well, yeah. I was just thinking about me bro, Sulky.
Oh, the one you've lost touch with.
Yeah. Gore, he could be a right nasty piece of work sometimes, that one. Always used to nab me shared grub when we had enough anything to eat.
That's different for what? Okay. He does sound like a very mean man.
Oi, what are you looking at me for, sunshine?
Ah! Okay, so we have to pursue them both. Okay, so we have to pursue both of them to get the accolade. Got it. Well, now I have to repress everything because I Okay, let's repress everything because I need to actually hear their whole statements. If that's the case, then why didn't you testify to that effect in the first place?
Well, you know, we ain't exactly sweet clean, are we?
We ain't, Nash, we ain't.
If we admitted to something like that, people would think we was up to no good.
You guys are up to no good.
Well said, Ringo. Me old China. We only had ourselves in even more trouble.
And in fact, now, as a result of lying in your previous testimony... Did they? I didn't even notice. That's exactly what you've done. Landed yourselves in even more trouble.
Oh
wow, they did! Huh. That's a nice touch. It's just one of those subtle things you just don't notice. Okay.
That's rotten luck.
Says the rotten apple eater. Witnesses, explain your actions to the court. Why did you ransack the victim's counter?
We never ransacked nothing.
Right, Nash, right.
More like we tidied up the place.
Real big doubt.
Sorry.
Hold it!
So what you're saying is, the sound of the gunshot shocked you so much you knocked all those things off the counter.
Well, it shocked one of us that much, yeah. This bag of nerves needs to learn to keep his shirt on. Look, it was loud, alright? Blimey, me did Granny would have woken up on that bang. Big Bruv here screamed like a bloomin' baby and fell over on the counter. He knocked over a load of books, a candlestick, and some skull whatnot. I got tangled in some marionette. What knocked over a picture frame? What knocked them scales on the floor?
You've really mastered working quietly, then.
What a racket! My granny would have been scared back into a grave at a clatter like that.
So, in short, the gunshot took you by surprise.
And then some. I mean, it was quiet as a mouse. And then all of a sudden, BAM!
Gregson? Well, we'll talk to you in a moment.
And picture the scene, right? I hear a gunshot, and then next thing I know, there's a skull rolling across the floor. That deafening bang in the pitch black. I ain't gonna forget that in a hurry, I tell ya.
I could tell ya. And yet, despite being so scared, you had the composure to tidy the mess you made?
What do you mean, Gov?
I would imagine most people would have left the rolling skull and fled without a second thought.
You wanna give the Skulkin' Bruvs a bad name? If nothing else, we're tidy.
Your guys are thieves. Well, pardon me for the slander.
Hold it!
So, you didn't try to open the storeroom door then?
Not on your life. It went deadly quiet after that did. Put the wind right up me. But anyway, the door was locked, wasn't it? No way that was opening.
Yes, of course. It was locked from the inside, or so we've been led to believe.
It was, Gov, it was. From the inside. Right. So we had no way of knowing what was going on in there, did we? Do we? Do we?
Unless there was some other way to get a view of the inside of the storeroom. Like through the keyhole or a spy hole, perhaps?
Don't ring no bells. No light, no light. Don't light no lights. We had to cut and run before we noticed anything like that. We're still cutting our teeth in this game, see? But one day, we really cut the mustard.
Please, cut it out. But as we know, behind the door was the victim's lifeless body, with the accused not 2 feet away. Yes, unfortunately. Edgar hasn't showed up yet, so... Gina was in there unconscious, with a gun in her hand. To confirm, would it be correct to say that neither of you set foot inside the storeroom?
That's right, Gov, that's right. Couldn't have, even if we wanted to. We stuck everything. Oh, I read that. Don't mind me.
Yes, whereupon you fired a shot from your own gun at Mr. Herlock Sholmes.
Oh, yeah. We was a bit hasty there. We was, Nash, we was. Truth be told, I was already shaking like a leaf when you lot turned up.
If you're shaking like a leaf, don't put a loaded gun in your hand.
Good advice, miss. Good advice. Truth be told, me mind went totally blank.
Before your mind goes totally blank, make sure you don't have a loaded gun in your hand.
Mental note made, miss. After that, we legged it down the street, but apparently we looked dodgy to the coppers or somewhat, so they clapped the derbies on us like winking.
And after you've been handcuffed, the police found this revolver in your possession, correct?
Well, yeah. But listen, that proves it, don't it, eh?
Hold it!
And why should we believe that?
What? Well, 'cause it's true, ain't it? The place was totally empty when we went in.
At that time, the victim was already in the storeroom, having been forced to open the door by the accused who had a gun to his head. In other words, on the night in question, these two witnesses never even laid eyes on the proprietor of the pawnbrokery, Mr. Windybank. Correct?
You got it, mister. Down to a T.
I forgot which one's Ringo and which one's Nash already. So the Skokin brothers never actually encountered Mr. Windybank. Is that really true, I wonder? Doubt. That's it? That's the full extent of their testimony?
What is it, Bruno? You look very fierce. I could pour you some herbal tea if you're tired.
Oh, thank you, but I'm fine. Being such a logical thinker, you'll probably laugh. But I feel as though these brothers are still hiding something. Something important. It is nothing more than a feeling, though. I've no proof to support it.
Huh. Well, feelings can be very logical at times.
Sorry?
People's expressions, the movement of their eyes, the words they choose. You can take all that in, and your brain will quietly analyze it to come up with a feeling like you described. You've concluded that there's something suspicious about this testimony without knowing why. That's all. I think you should trust your instincts.
Iris, thank you. Sometimes I think if she's 10 years old, I must be 5. Iris is so bright. I love her. She is a Holmes. Wait, which one was it? Was it this one?
Hold it!
Well, we'll find out in a moment.
Is that right?
I like Gregson's voice.
Excuse me.
Inspector Gregson, do you have something to add?
Like I keep saying, I don't appreciate being lumped in with these scoundrels. I wasn't trying to, but yeah, okay, sir.
No, something to add about their testimony. You seemed to react just now at what Mr. Skulkin said. Did it make you think of something?
It's probably nothing, of course. I wouldn't even bother to mention it, only... Well, the fact is, cases don't get solved if you ignore the little details.
How about you just tell us what's on your mind?
Well, as you know, we brought these fellas into the yard for questioning last night. And the statement they gave then told a slightly different story to what they're saying now. Oh? Did it? You claimed you heard the victim shout something out before the gunshot. Might have, Gov, might have. Does ring a bell now you mention it. Granted, it's only a minor detail, but still. I can't help feeling like perhaps you've been a bit sloppy with your testimony here, eh, fellas? If I discover the witness's testimony has been any more sloppy than it has hitherto proven to be, I shall be forced to bring the very harshest punishment to bear against them. Easy, easy! We'll get it right this time. That's it! Oh, yeah, it's all coming back to me now.
Then speak. Supplement your testimony with whatever details have miraculously returned to your questionable minds, sirs.
Right you are, Gov. Just before the gunshot, we heard a voice yelling out, "Give me that gun!"
Hold it!
So, in fact, you heard the voice and the gunshot almost simultaneously.
We did, Gov, we did. Although, I suppose if you're being honest, we heard a kind of wavering voice before the yell and all. If you don't want to get shot, give me that gun! Bam! Kind of thing.
A career in acting tragically missed. And where were the voices coming from? Could you tell?
Of course we could. From the other side of that door behind the counter it was.
From the storeroom, where the victim was found dead. And the voice you heard, it was that of the victim, Mr. Windybank. Yeah, maybe they should stop being thieves and go into theater.
On me granny's life, of course it was. On his granny's life, of course it was.
So, that would mean... like, you both knew Mr. Windybank and the sound of his voice?
So that would mean what? What, Nash, what? Any ideas? Yes, Counsel, indeed, it would. No. We didn't know the geezer. How was I supposed to deny it when the bloke in all the fancy club was giving us the evil eye?
If you value your lives, you will ensure your testimony is accurate and true.
Oh, on me granny's life it is. On his granny's life it must be.
It's a good job his granny's dead. To summarize then, immediately after hearing the voice of the victim, you then hear the gunshot, causing you to stumble and upset the items on the counter, scattering them over the shop floor.
You make it sound like we're clumsy. Don't forget we tidied up after like good little boys. Anyway, the way I see it, I doubt this bloke who owned the place was holding the gun, so he should have fired instead of yelling at the girl.
Wait a minute, is that a new testimony?
Hold it!
Is that a new testimony? You're saying that Mr. Windybank had a gun in his hands?
Oh yeah, bet that was a sight, eh? Them two waving them guns at each other. Must have got pretty heated. I mean, just before he shouted out, we heard the geezer say, "If you don't want to get shot." Didn't really sound like he meant it, mind. More of an empty threat, you could say.
Mr. Windybank was known to keep a revolver on his shop counter at all times. People say that to protect the articles he is in his keeping. He'd readily put a bullet in someone's head if required. That someone being himself, of course.
Good grief! Extraordinary devotion, indeed, if alarmingly misguided. Well, he certainly sounded like he was ready to pull the trigger the other night. Only the person he was going to shoot beat him to it. Cooked his goose proper. Bet he wished he squeezed the trigger instead of wasting time shouting, "Give me that gun!"
And it was directly after those words that you heard the gunshot.
It was more or less at the same time, Gov. Give me that gun! Bam!
Kind of thing. Yes, a career in acting very tragically missed.
Then we heard the sound of someone hitting the deck. Before everything went dead quiet. After that, we done a slapdash job tidying the place up.
I don't know. No. Which one of these statements? I gotta present something here. I don't know, but I gotta present something here. Cause this ain't right. What am I presenting is the question. Wait. Hold on. Wait, there's only been one gunshot in each... That sounds like there's been 3? Hold on. I gotta present somewhere. He never had the gun. Wait, yeah, they were talking as if there were 2 guns, but also, like, I don't think
Hold it!
Whoops. No, wrong button! Sorry. Oh, my memory is so hazy about what I need to do for case 5 and beyond, and I only have a good memory of the first 4 cases, so everything's just kind of like, It's like, I know what I gotta do, I just don't remember what I gotta do. I don't think you have the gun, sir. Hold on. Wait! No! That's right! Hold on, they're a little acting. It looks like they shot him from the front, but it looks like he was shot from the back? Hey, who? But which one am I presenting to? Am I presenting? Oh, you know what? YOLO.
Objection!
Yay! YOLO! I'm like, you know what? YOLO, I've been stalling too long. I gotta figure this out. So you're saying that on the night in question, the victim, Mr. Windybank, was wielding a gun. Is that correct?
That's it, Gov. You got the picture. He has, Nash. He has. No question.
And yet, photographic evidence obtained immediately after the incident clearly shows that Mr. Windybank was not holding a firearm of any description.
Eh? You what? Gordon Bennett, that ain't right.
Objection!
There can be no question that the victim's revolver was used in the incident. I would remind the court that Mr. Windybank's gun was found at the scene. Not only was it identified as the murder weapon, but it was found in the accused's hand. Okay, yes, but why is there a discrepancy where he thinks he's holding the gun?
Yeah, that Motuller used the victim's own gun to finish him off. Give me that gun. Bam!
Kind of thing.
Hold it!
No. Do that again. Stay exactly where you are. Right there. If the crime had taken place as you've colorfully described in your testimony, it would give rise to an undeniable and significant inconsistency in the final moments you just acted out.
Goodness, are you sure, counsel?
You intrigued me, my learned friend, but let's see some evidence to support your claim. Where is the proof that that demonstrates this inconsistency in the witness's portrayal of the victim's final moments? Is it the autopsy? Is it the autopsy report? I think so.
Take that!
Okay, well, it's not yelling at me. According to their testimony, the witness claimed to have heard a shout of "Give me that gun," followed by the gunshot.
Indeed, with the two events happening almost simultaneously, or so we've been led to believe.
Yes, that's right. Now, if that testimony is true, it would mean that at the moment of death, the victim and his attacker would have been facing each other. However, in the autopsy report, it clearly states that the victim died instantly after being shot from behind.
Oh,
So, as I stated before, there is an undeniable inconsistency in your testimony, Mr. and Mr. Skulkin.
what?
I love them. They're so good. I love these two.
But it's the God's honest truth.
It is, Nash, it is.
When he was shot that night, the shopkeeper had a gun in his hand. We saw it with our own bleeding eyes.
Okay. Did I hear you right just now? You actually saw Mr. Windenbank holding a gun.
Something like that might have slipped out.
God, these two. Ladies and gentlemen, you have all just heard the admission by these two witnesses that on the night in question, they actually saw, with their own eyes, the victim wielding a gun. Which can only mean that despite their testimony to the contrary, the Skulkin brothers must have encountered the victim in person.
Nash, now!
You may kiss the Skulkin. Now I'm just imagining that they kiss Gregson.
Order! Witnesses, explain yourselves at once.
Well, the thing is, it was supposed to, Witnesses, I think Van Zeeks is going to murder you. It would seem that my previous warning fell on deaf ears. I made it quite clear that false witness would be the death of you.
Am I to understand that you replaced the untruths of your original testimony with renewed lies?
I'm ever so sorry, Governor. Truth is, see, we,
Cut it out, Nash, cut it out! If we blab now, you know what you'll do to us.
He? Who are we talking about? Let's make your position here perfectly clear. You will talk. There is no other option available to you.
Bruv, come on, the game's up. But he'll have our guts for garters.
In case it hasn't quite sunk in yet, no matter how hard you try to hide it, the truth will come out.
On the night in question, it is now apparent that you brothers met face to face with the victim. I demand that you testify again to explain the precise circumstances under which this meeting took place.
Well.
Do we have
to? On pain of death. I suggest you make yourselves fully aware that this is your very last chance to tell the truth. Spooky. Encounter with the victim.
Alright, we just got inside the gaff and heaved a sigh of relief when the geezer showed his mug. Give me that gun, he bellowed, and then he flew at us like we was possessed. I thought we had it. And for an old geezer, the bloke was strong as an ox. He chucked me over the counter. I pulled me gun on him, and then he legged it through that door into the back room. We never had nothing to do with killing him. That's all what happened, I swear.
God, Riaz, I hope you're having fun of me struggling to accents. So, you're now telling us that moments before the victim was killed in the storeroom, you in fact encountered him in the main part of the shop.
Well, yeah. Sorry. Well, we find ourselves at an interesting juncture. This changes matters considerably. But honest, Governor, this time, Nash, this time, we ain't got nothing more to hide.
Oh, you're hiding somebody.
Very well. Counsel for the defense, you may proceed with your cross-examination.
Yes, my lord. This is it. The moment I've been waiting for. Get him, Naruhodo! Get him! As I sit here and be like, I don't remember what I was supposed to do, but we're gonna get through this somehow.
Hold it!
When you say geezer, I presume you mean the victim and proprietor of the shop, Mr. Windybank.
Who else? Sorry, I mean, that's right. We was keeping a close eye on the entrance to the gaff, obviously, but we never thought no one was gonna come out of the back room like that.
The back room being the pawnbrokery storeroom.
Yeah, that must be where he popped up from. Only place he could have been.
So it would seem the victim was already in the storeroom when these brothers entered the premises.
Which means Ginny must have been in there at that point as well.
But that doesn't make sense, does it? If Gina had threatened Mr. Windybank into the storeroom with her at gunpoint, then why would he have emerged from the same room all alone when the brothers arrived?
Oh, I don't know.
Did you see the accused at that time?
What? The mole tooler? Couldn't tell ya. No way, Cubba. We had bigger fish to fry then. I mean, the old geezer just lost it.
Hold it!
You mentioned that Mr. Windybank shouted those words in your previous testimony, too. However, you claim that you heard him yelling them on the other side of the storeroom door.
Oh, did we?
But the truth is, he was shouting those words at you, wasn't he?
Oh, well, yeah.
Was the victim Mr. Windybank wielding a gun at the time?
Was he ever? Blimey lummy, that great ugly barrow he had, pointed straight at me fronty-pieced.
So what you're saying is, you definitely saw Mr. Windybank with the gun at the time. Is that right?
It is, Golf, it is. Spot on. Then all of a sudden he came at us, he did. It was bedlam. I didn't know who was going for who.
You were clearly all going for each other.
Like Nash said, we thought we had it. I mean...
Hold it!
Yes, I noted that you mentioned the counter in your previous testimony, too.
Well, yeah, of course we did. He knocked over a load of books, a candlestick, and some skull whatnot. That got tangled in some marionette. What knocked over a picture frame. What killed them scales on the floor. What knocked them scales.
So, in fact, it wasn't the sound of the gunshot that shocked you and made you knock those things off the counter.
Well, Big Bruv here went flying over that counter like a gunshot, I could tell you. Then the old geezer pinned him. He did, Nash, he did. If you hadn't been there, the bloke would have flattened me like a bloomin' pancake in seconds.
At the time in question, the alarm was raised at the local police station via a secret cable from the pawnbrokery. There is a button under the counter used to activate it, which was presumably pressed by the victim. That's right. When the brothers fled the scene and back onto the street, they ran straight into the arriving police, didn't they?
Poor Mr. Windybank. He did everything he could to protect his shop.
Hold it!
Were you intending to shoot Mr. Windybank?
No, never. I was just, you know. Looking for me bruv, wasn't I? He was being flattened, don't forget.
By a man whose shop was being burgled, yes. And then the man fled into the storeroom when you pointed your gun at him. Is that it?
Yeah, that's it. He shoved me away, then ran off through that door and shut himself in.
There's something about that last remark. Something that doesn't quite ring true.
Huh. I wonder why Mr. Windybank ran away into the storeroom.
What?
Well, according to what everyone's saying, Ginny was in there waiting for him with a gun.
Yes, that's right. Gina allegedly used Mr. Windybank's gun to threaten him and forced him to open the storeroom door. In which case, how did the gun end up in Mr. Windybank's hand again?
I have no idea, but that is strange, isn't it?
This little inconsistency could be significant,
I should make a mental note of it. Look, the point is, me and me bruv here. That's right, Nash, that's right. Me and me bruv here.
Hold it!
You say you had nothing to do with it.
Nothing at all. Nothing, Gov, nothing. The old geezer went and shut himself in the back room, didn't he? Locked it was, from the inside. I know it was. We know it was, because we tried to open it. But it's a decent door, that one. Good and strong. Wouldn't budge an inch.
So in the end, the situation remains unchanged. Inside the storeroom with the pawnbroker, there was only one other person. The sole person who could possibly have shot the victim, the accused, Miss Gina Lestrade.
It would indeed appear so. What say you to that, Counsel?
I don't know. Was there anyone else apart from Gina who could have possibly shot Windybank? There could have been? Mr. and Mr. Skulkin.
Eh? What? What's that look for?
From the moment you admitted that you encountered the victim face to face that night, the course of this trial changed completely.
It did?
What is your point, my learned friend? The question we must answer is who could have shot Mr. Windybank? And it is the belief of the defense that the defendant is not the only possible answer at all.
Rubble.
You have my attention. In that case, let us return to this plan of the premises. The victim was killed in the storeroom, which was locked from the inside. Those are the facts, so pray, what other possible answer to the question of who shot the man could there be? Outside the storeroom?
Counsel, you must now provide answers to the court in respect of two conundrums.
Two, my lord. Twice as many chances to be right, maybe?
Indeed. Namely, from what location did the culprit shoot the victim? And furthermore, where was the victim at the time?
Understood, my lord.
Are you alright, Bruno?
I'm not entirely sure, but there's one thing I'm sure about. If I can prove that there's a credible new alternative to what happened, it would change Gina's prospects hugely. I think Gina is also in possession of the storeroom key? So it would make sense that if Mr. I don't think we're going to bring that up at all because this is Ace Attorney, but I'm very sure it makes sense that, Windybank ran towards the storeroom, gets shot, goes inside, Gina takes the key to lock the storeroom, and that's what happened. So now, time for some clarity. Show the court on this plan the answers to the questions posed by his lordship. If you believe someone else could have killed the victim, indicate from where that person could have fired the gun. Right here?
Take that!
The defense believes that the culprit could have shot the victim from this location here. And in answer to the second question, assuming the culprit fired from the location indicated, where was the victim at the time? Here.
Take that!
The culprit shot the victim from outside the storeroom. Continue. Oh, no rebuttal. All right then. Mr. Windybank died instantly from a bullet wound in his back. Looking at the stain of blood in the storeroom floor, it doesn't appear that the body was moved after death, which tells us that he was almost certainly shot while he was in the storeroom. However, the crucial point is, where was the shooter when the fatal bullet was fired?
So you are adamant that the shot was fired from outside the storeroom?
Well, according to the Skulkin brothers' earlier testimony,
I pulled me gun on him, and then he legged it through that door into the back room.
oh yeah, that criminalized them. If Mr. Windybank ran away through the door, we have to assume that the door was open at that time.
Oh.
It was at precisely that moment, when the victim was fleeing for his life, that these brothers had the perfect opportunity to shoot the man in the back once he was inside the storeroom. Oh, no!
Come to think of it, do you remember what the prosecutor said at the start of the trial?
Moving on to the findings of Scotland Yard's coroner, his report states that the bullets entered the body on a rising diagonal trajectory. It means the victim was likely shot by someone significantly shorter in height than himself.
Poor man, shot while he was running as fast as he could to safety.
Of course. He would have been leaning forward as he was running away. So even if the bullet was fired horizontally, it would still have entered his body on an upward trajectory.
So the culprit isn't necessarily someone shorter than Mr. Windybank.
Objection!
I'm sure my learned friend can't have forgotten that the storeroom door was found closed and locked from the inside. You claim the victim was shot as he fled into the room. Do you also claim his corpse was dexterous enough to turn the key in the lock? But... What if someone else locked the door? Yes, there is someone else who could have locked the storeroom door. She was found with the key, right? Is that so?
Very well then, counsel. Present your hypothesis to the court. In the scenario just described, the defense assertion is that the victim was shot from outside the storeroom. In which case, who shut and locked the storeroom door from the inside?
Gina.
Take that!
Obviously, the person who locked the door was the only other person inside the storeroom at the time. The defendant, Miss Gina Lestrade.
Objection!
That's absurd. You're suggesting that the accused deliberately engineered the sealed room. For what possible reason? Such actions would only serve to tighten the noose around her neck.
I am inclined to agree, I must say. Well, counsel,
Man, we gotta spell it out for you guys, huh? Alright then. Or Naruhodo doesn't. Yes, that's a tricky one, that, isn't it?
half-baked notions have no place in my courtroom, counsel. Remember that, please. But of course Jeannie would have locked the door. It almost goes without saying, doesn't it?
It does?
Well, if I was Ginny in that situation, I know I would have locked the door as quickly as I could. I mean, those two burglars had just fired a gun in her direction, hadn't they?
Oh yes, obviously. Before the two brothers arrived, Miss Lestrade and Mr. Winniebank were in the storeroom together. Now, I don't know what went on between them at the time, but at some point, Mr. Winniebank must have heard the intruders breaking into his shop and left the storeroom. Intruders, eh? That's us, bruv. If your theory is correct, that would leave the accused alone in the storeroom. Yes, it would. Then, probably only moments later, the victim fled back through the storeroom door, hoping to escape danger. Hit in the back by the bullet, Mr. Winniebank fell to the floor where he was, just inside the storeroom. And what we have to ask ourselves now is, what would the defendant have done in that moment? I see where you're going with this. Outside the storeroom was a terrifying killer who had just murdered Mr. Winniebank. As soon as that thought struck Miss Lestrade, she slammed the door shut and locked it, in order to save her own life.
Hold it!
Ooh, but we ain't the ones who done it. We gotta hold it from the Nash here. Wait, Gov, wait! You gotta believe us. I mean, come on, we never shoot no one.
Objection!
You shot Sherlock? That's blatantly untrue. I know for a fact that you would, because before my own eyes, you shot Mr. Herlock Sholmes. Ooh. There is only one logical conclusion here. Mr. and Mr. Skulkin, you brothers had every opportunity to have been the true perpetrators of Mr. Winniebank's murder. Where does this leave us?
You mean to say it wasn't the pickpocket who shot the pawnbroker after all?
I should have known it was those three brothers. They looked as shady as dense forest. As a dense forest.
That was amazing, Runo. All the members of the jury seem to be firmly on your side now.
I know. First time ever. And probably the last.
Well, I think you've done it. Surely they'll have to give a verdict of not.
Or Venzi could laugh. I don't, he's laughing. An admirable effort, my learned friend. What's this now? He's laughing?
You find the situation amusing, Lord Van Zeeks. I find myself the defense's argument most persuasive.
I'm going to pour this wine because this whole courtroom is a circus. I dare say. Such chicanery is the bread and butter of the street performers in your provincial Eastern nation. But such blatantly malicious conjuring tricks amount to nothing more than inexcusable pettifoggery here.
What?
The hypothesis you put forward so substantially credibly cannot and will not stand. Because, you see, it contains a fatal flaw. A fatal flaw? Do you mean to tell me that you're unaware of your logic's failing? I say, Lord Van Zeeks, might be an idea to explain this bally conjuring trick or whatever it is to the troops on the ground, The fatal flaw in your learned friend's argument is really very simple to understand. Assuming you're not too dim-witted to count bullets. By George, count bullets? Oh, Baroque makes a valid point here.
Oh dear. He noticed then.
Huh? What's everyone talking about? Counsel. Yes, sir. Tell the court how many bullets were found at the scene of the crime. Two bullets. Correct. The first that which hit the victim in the back, ending his life. And the second that which struck the detective, Mr. Herlock Sholmes, on his arrival at the scene.
Indeed. The defense presented a picture showing the damage caused by the second bullet earlier in the proceedings. The bullet which injured Mr. Sholmes appears to have passed through his body to strike the calendar.
Your lordship's understanding is correct. Furthermore, we know there are two firearms involved in the incident. The revolver belonging to the victim, Mr. Windybank, and the Skokin brothers' revolver. The evidence shows that a single bullet was fired from each gun.
Yes, indeed it does. A single bullet from each.
Now then, my learned friend. You yourself told the court only moments ago that these two brothers shot Mr. Herlock Sholmes right before your eyes. Yes, I did. Oh my goodness, I think you'll find that if the single bullet that was fired from the brothers' gun hit Mr. Sholmes, it means Windybank not shot by same gun. Stop. Only one bullet. Stop. Exactly. Yes, this Nipponese street performer presented an substantially credible argument. However, it was never anything more than a diversionary trick, with no hope of standing up to scrutiny. Ah!
Order!
And there goes the wine bottle. Pray, forgive the discourtesy of flinging the dregs of this hollowed nectar into the public gallery.
Lord Van Zeeks.
But this court needs to open its eyes. The accused, Miss Gina Lestrade, is no ordinary little girl. Despite her young years, she can, regrettably, no longer be described as a juvenile. No, the person in the dock is far from a law-abiding citizen. She has a past riddled with criminal conduct. The truth is, the accused broke into the pawnbrokery on the night in question with loathsome intent. As we see beyond doubt in this print, which depicts her threatening the victim with the murder weapon. And I have here in my possession one more piece of evidence the prosecution wishes to present. The disc! That disc! Dude, we need to spray the blood!
I'll be taking that whatever it is of McGilded's down to the yard, thank you very much.
No, don't! Don't give it to him! It's mine, that is! Mine!
I'm sorry, miss, but anything belonging to McGilded has to be taken in as evidence now.
Yes, that music box disc. McGilded's music box disc. Oh my god, why? I'm struggling with disc again. The very day before the hateful murder of Mr. Windybank, the accused attempted to make off with this article, which clearly doesn't belong to her. And with none of the subtlety of a pickpocket, I might add. But brute force and brazen impudence.
Good gracious!
Make no mistake, any sympathy for the accused on the account of her years is misguided and dangerous. There are no depths to which this girl would not stoop if pushed. No crime she would not commit. The court forgets the fact it's at its peril.
I see. I think it would be prudent to take this music box disc into evidence, counsel, as a grim testament to the defendants.
Lord Van Zeeks, Was that Gregson's hold it? Dang. Inspector Gregson, what? Yes, Inspector.
Well, we had a meeting yesterday at the yard with the prosecution service, and, I think it was agreed that that disc wouldn't be used as evidence. Too late!
Van Zeek's just like, I don't give a shit. What's this all about? Why is the inspector acting strangely? That's the first time he said anything to Van Zeeks at all. I am unaware of any such meeting.
But those were the instructions, right from the top. The government bigwigs were insistent.
Inspector, I am the prosecutor, and I alone determine how to present my case. Your warning is noted. Thank you. The prosecution wishes to proceed with submitting this disc as evidence, my lord.
Indeed. Bailiff!
Music box disc. A metal disc used to play music in the mechanical music box. On the reverse side is a note that reads, "For McGilded." The prosecution has established the accused's motive, opportunity, and baseness of character. There is nothing more to add. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I await your informed decisions and rest my case. I don't believe it. I had the jury on my side for once, for all of 5 minutes. Oh.
Oh dear. It wasn't even full 5 minutes, Runo.
My lord! Wonder if I may say something at this point.
Proceed, Mr. Foreman.
Been stumbling about it a bit of fog up to now, if truth be told, but all of a sudden, the answer's Bolly's obvious to me and my men. There's only one thing for it. Oh no.
Very well. The court will hear from the jury. Ladies and gentlemen, you will present your learnings as the defendant's culpability.
Guilty.
Guilty.
Guilty. Guilty.
Guilty.
Guilty.
God. Juror 6. Stress!
We have a consensus among the jury, it seems.
When you have eliminated the impossible, whatever remains must be the truth. Look at this Herlock nerd.
That's my line. I wrote that for Hurley. Oh, how dare he use it against us?
Don't worry, Iris. I don't think we're finished yet. There's still more to this case than we realize. There must be, because there's one thing that I'm absolutely certain of. Gina didn't shoot Mr. Windybank. That's beyond any doubt.
Very well. We will proceed with the second summation examination of the day. Mr. Foreman, are you and the other jurors ready?
Garrett Squadron is prime and ready for action, sir.
Very good. So, ladies and gentlemen of the jury,
You will each explain on what grounds you have now determined the defendant to be guilty.
Judicial findings. Let's go. The jurors' contentions. Once a rogue, always a rogue, I say. Differ breeds to us law-abiding citizens.
As only 2 bullets were found at the scene, I would say the whole case is done and dusted.
You don't need a stereoscope to see the truth here. Every which way you look at it, it was that pickpocket. I never imagined that simple operation would cause me such grief. Why are you still on that, sir?
The accused attempted a theft on the previous day. I can see I'm in for a busy day ahead.
I am ballistic expert. I have seen many shootings. There is nothing I do not know about guns. Okay, sir.
It would seem there is little remaining room for doubt.
I have to admit, I was rather bowled over by the argument put forward by the chap in black. But when they fell apart like the house of cards, I saw I'd jolly well been hoodwinked. Well, no more. The whole courtroom is turning against me.
It's not fair.
Iris?
That prosecutor's being mean. Just because Jeannie's done something she shouldn't have done in the past, doesn't make her a murderer.
Get him, Iris, get him! Allow me to savor this fruity vintage while I savor the spectacle of your fruitless debate on the matter. Get him, Iris! Get him while Naruhodo's doing summation! Here's to the truth coming out, eventually.
That's enough preamble. Counsel, proceed with the summation examination.
Yes, my lord. Whew, all right then. I'm gonna take a drink of water as the music starts. I'm also going to check that new piece of evidence because I need to get the color of that blood. Iris, I need to borrow you for like 1 second because we need to do something. Stop bullying Baroque for 1 second.
Oh, Bruno, look! This is blood.
Yes, you're right. Just a small smear, but definitely blood. Actually, I feel as though I might have noticed that before.
Huh, then it's my time to shine again. I thought I'd be waiting forever. Alright, hold still with that disc, Bruno.
Can we get this done quickly, Iris?
In a flash. Oh, a lovely bright shade again.
Wait. That color.
What is it?
It's just that green. It's not the first time we've seen that color, is it? That's been updated. Do I have anything with Iris? Okay.
For McGilded. That's the man you defended in court a couple months ago, isn't it, Bruno?
Yes, or rather, mistakenly defended.
I wonder what his name is doing on the back of this desk.
That's a question I love to know the answer to myself. Oh, shoot, Iris is with us.
Those are the scales of justice, aren't they?
Yes, that's right. Mr. Sato says they symbolize equality and fairness of judgment.
But if it's the symbol used by defense lawyers, shouldn't it at least be leaning a little to the not guilty side?
My thoughts exactly. Aw, they think alike!
Oh, I've seen letters like these before. They're called kanji, aren't they? So is this how you write your name in Japanese?
Actually, no, that's not my name at all.
Bruno, you know that stealing is wrong, don't you?
First of all, I inherited this from my best friend on his death. Second of all, if anyone has stolen it, it's you. You just grabbed it from me.
Is everything alright? You've gotten very quiet all of a sudden.
It's a long story. Too long for now. We'll talk about it another time. I'm so glad I did that. Anything else I should look at? Ooh. Nah, we're good. Okay.
Hold it!
Just because Miss Lestrade has a history of pickpocketing, she must be guilty of murder. Is that what you're saying? Ah, well. Are you all members of the British Army so quick to judge? I beg your pardon? Are you mocking Her Majesty's Armed Forces, the greatest military organization in the world? No, I'm simply illustrating my point. Making assumptions about people because they're a soldier or a pickpocket is wrong and dangerous. Huh, well, yes, might have a point there, I suppose. But let's not forget the girl had already shown she had it in her from before. She's clearly a criminal sort through and through. Can't deny it. When you say that she's shown she had it in her, are you referring to this? Exactly! Tried to swipe that the other day earlier, Or am I mistaken? Not exactly. Given that I was actually there at the time, it's hard to refute that.
I've never actually seen the real thing. I can't wait to have a closer look at it.
We just did, Iris. Oh yes, of course. Mr. Sholmes did use his caramel bars to make a copy of the disc, didn't he? And then ordered every type of music box he could find from across Europe. Oh boy. There's gonna be a pile of music boxes in the house.
We still don't know what tune it plays, though, do we? But I'd love to see how the original compares to Hurley's copy.
McGilded's disc. Could it be a clue somehow? Perhaps we should examine it in more detail. Sure, we did that. We got the thing. We're gonna talk to these people still. It's the number of bullets that has you convinced.
Only 2 bullets were fired, and the 2 guns that fired them have been examined by the police. When the parlor maid asks me how many are invited for dinner, I always tell her to count the table settings.
Well, that's logical, I suppose.
Although,
Yes?
sometimes after dining, crockery does go missing. 1 or 2 guests rather like the fine china.
Does your employer dine with thieves?
So I suppose, if there was another bullet somewhere of which we were unaware, I'd have to reconsider my position.
Valid? A 3rd bullet somewhere on the scene. Could that be possible? I can't prove it right now. Unfortunately, only 2 bullets were discovered by the police during their investigation.
Yes, I know.
Right.
And I don't imagine the good men of Scotland Yard would have overlooked anything. If I missed a bullet while I was cleaning his lordship's office, well, I should receive a sound scolding, I don't doubt.
And he should receive a visit from the police, perhaps. It sounds like a crime scene to me.
A 3rd bullet.
It would completely turn things around if there was one, wouldn't it?
Do you think we might find one lying around somewhere?
Hold it!
So if I understood correctly, you need 2 pictures, a left one and a slightly different right eye one.
Exactly. Then you can see the scene in 3 dimensions. Like this.
So if we have 2 bullets, I don't suppose you can see anything useful with them.
I think you'll find that no matter how much you squint, the truth of the situation always looks the same here. The only person who could have shot the victim is that girl in the dock.
How can you be so sure of that?
Think about it. The Skulkin brothers shot the great detective, didn't they?
Yes, that's been mentioned once or twice.
Well then, surely it's coming into focus now, isn't it?
This is a waste of time. I'm not going to change this man's mind anytime soon. Sir, what are you thinking about right now? What surgery? Would you please stop muttering about things that have nothing to do with this trial, sir? The defendant's life is on the line here.
Well, the thing is, I couldn't really say that it has nothing to do with this trial, to be honest.
Huh?
I mean, there is no question that the man was shot, but the bullet had simply vanished from his stomach. It's quite inexplicable, don't you think?
Ah, Sir, did you examine Herlock? I almost don't want to ask, but this surgery you've been muttering about all this time, you are operating on... What was the fellow's name now? Hairlick? No. Hairlock? No. Hairlock. Herlock Sholmes, by any chance?
Oh, yes, good lord. It was that Hairlock fellow.
What? You're the surgeon that operated on Mr. Sholmes?
That's right. Using the very latest anesthesia techniques, I might add. It was a fairly major op, I can tell you.
This is crazy. What a coincidence!
Let me see. The fellow was brought in not long after midnight, if I remember correctly. They said he'd been shot by some criminal or other, so I opened him up like a shot. But the funny thing is, I went over his insides with a fine-tooth comb and couldn't find a bullet anywhere. So I'm afraid I had to throw up my hands and just stitch the fellow back up.
I hate to state the obvious, but...
Yes?
Surely that's because the bullet is still at the scene of the shooting.
The counsel for the defense is correct, as is clearly shown in the photographic print,
As we are both clear now that it is not Sherlock's blood. The bullet that the Skulkin brothers fired at Mr. Sholmes hit him in the stomach region, then exited his body and lodged into the shop wall, where the calendar was hanging by the door. I think you'll find it's really quite simple if you just consider the problem three-dimensionally.
Huh! Who do you think I am, son?
Well, juror number 4 is about the best I can do.
As soon as I saw the wound to the man's stomach, I flipped him over.
Like a pancake? Are you saying that you checked his back?
Of course I did. And there wasn't a trace of injury. No sign that the bullet had left the body at all.
What?
That's the point! The whole logical conclusion was that the bullet was still somewhere in the man's innards. Which is exactly why I set about slicing him up. And I'm still none the wiser even now. How many times do I have to say it? Can somebody please explain how it happened? Can somebody please solve the mystery?
It's almost as much of a mystery as how this jury was put together.
The mystery of where that bullet ended up is infuriating. Where is an expert when you need one?
Hold it!
Well, I have an expert and he's number 6. Mr. Sholmes' surgeon is on the jury. I've experienced some coincidences recently, but this is ridiculous.
I'm as surprised as anyone.
But there's no question that Mr. Sholmes was shot.
Well, that's what the police told me when they brought him in.
How bad were his injuries, Doctor?
He was in a bad way. He lost a huge amount of blood, you know. And I suspect he was shot at quite close range, too, because his skin was badly burned from the point of entry.
Burnt?
As I said, I flipped the fellow over and examined his back, but there was no sign of an exit wound. Which is why I thought I'd better locate the lug and pop it out.
And yet you say you found no bullet inside the patient.
Well, I wouldn't have done, would I? I wouldn't have done, would I? Because it's in the wall of the pawnbrokers. But how did it get there? I need someone to solve this mystery before it drives me to insanity. If only there were some expert in ballistics who could help, even if he looked extremely untrustworthy.
Thank you, game, for the hint. So we have a disappearing bullet on our hands.
Hold it!
What do you mean you're in for a busy day?
Forget to say, stop. Do excuse me, stop. I am a communication officer, stop.
A communications officer? Does that have something to do with sending telegrams?
Everything from personal messages written by members of the public to the latest news in the capital. I convert all the messages into Morse code and tap it out to the entire world electronically.
To the entire world?
Thousands of miles of cables under the sea, stop. Worldwide communication network, stop. Information transmitted to and from all corners of globe, stop.
Ah yes. She was getting equally worked up about radio waves or the like before, wasn't she?
I specialize in communicating information from government departments and newspaper offices.
I see.
I'm sure I shall have to wire the newspaper reports of today's guilty verdict later. So no sleep for me tonight, I imagine.
Let's just finish the trial first, shall we?
Hold it!
I thought you were just a tourist. I love how the mice is also looking through. Good day. I am visiting London for sightseeing. I would like to take bus to Crystal Tower, please. There's no way he's just visiting tourist. So you're a ballistics expert. Who knew? I have much experience with guns. Ah, I have lived through many, how do you say, extreme, violent bath of, no, blood of,
Ah, extreme violent blood baths, perhaps.
Ah, those, extreme violent blood baths. English is very difficult tongue. Considering the sort of people you associate with, I'm surprised you still have a tongue. Anyway, if you have questions about bullets and guns, you ask me. There is nothing I do not know. No mystery I cannot solve. He's very confident in his knowledge of guns, that's for sure. But, if possible, please, only in Russian language. Sorry, we have no Russians here.
He's not very confident in his knowledge of English, though, is he?
No. Still, we should bear it in mind. He's our man if there's a mystery about guns or bullets. Van Zeeks has managed to convince everyone.
When you have eliminated the impossible, he said. But he hasn't.
If we're going to fight back, we need more material. And we have to fight back. And we have to fight back. We have to turn this trial around again. Okay, well, first off, let's pit these two.
Objection!
Those two statements clearly contradict the idea that all I do is pit jurors against each. I was not expecting that line. Those two statements clearly contradict the idea that all I do is pit jurors against each other. Ooh, a ballistic expert. PT. P-I-T-T. On the night in question, Mr. Sholmes was shot by one of the Soken brothers. But since there was no sign of an exit wound on his back, we assumed the bullet didn't pass through him. However, no bullet was found lodged in Mr. Sholmes' body either. Furthermore, a bullet was found lodged in the wall of the shop where Mr. Sholmes was shot. Juror number 6. Hello, my name is Villain. Pleased to meet you. This apparent contradiction in the facts that is so clearly troubling juror number 4. Are you able to explain the mystery? I have seen very similar situation in Motherland. It was night, there was blizzard. I was running away along mountain road in freezing cold.
Golly.
The snow was piling high on both sides of road. It was very, very narrow and very dangerous. My pursuers had hunting rifles, and they were on dog sleds. Meant to note, don't ask too many questions. I was shot from behind and fell down in snow. And this situation was very similar to what I hear today from doctor. They could not find bullet in my body, and no sign of, how do you say, exit wound. Then where did the bullet go? Bullet never hit me. Well, if it never hit you, why did you fall down? Bullet hit frozen wall of ice very close to my side. What? One small piece, very sharp, broke away from lump of ice and pierced my body. It made deep wound that looks just like bullet wound. Good gracious. Of course, piece of ice quickly melted inside me, and that is solution to mystery of disappearing bullet. But that doesn't answer the question at all. The shooting happened in a pawnbroker shop. Not some snowy mountain road in another country. Just an idea, but we might not be looking at exactly the same scenario here.
Runo, where exactly was Hurley shot again?
Well, according to the report, in his stomach. So around this area, I think.
Well, that's precisely where he always wears a little pouch on his belt.
A pouch? Actually, I might have noticed something like that.
Yes, a pouch. It's where he keeps 3 glass vials of very dangerous chemicals that he uses in his investigations.
What? Really? Doctor, where is the pouch Mr. Sholmes was wearing? Well, the fellow had nothing like that on his person when he arrived at the hospital, as far as I remember. If I may. Lord Van Zeeks? While I realize it is forbidden for the prosecution to interject during a summation examination, I should inform the defense that I have the pouch in question in the antechamber outside the courtroom. You do? Sir, why do you... Well, okay. Sorry. As I understand it, when the police arrived on the scene and found Mr. Sholmes injured, they removed the pouch in order to assess the wound. Oh, thank goodness. I thought I was getting forgetful for a moment. Since then, it has been in my safekeeping along with all other evidence relating to the case. I can personally vouch for the fact that it has not been touched since the incident occurred. Well, sir, may I, see it? Very well. Well, extremely unconventional during a summation examination. I must demand the prosecution present the items in question with all speed. Thanks for helping. Bring forth Mr. Herlock Sholmes' pouch. Thanks for helping, Baroque.
I see.
So this is the pouch worn by Mr. Sholmes on the night in question, is it?
Look at that. One of the files is broken, and the leather around it is scorched black. It's almost as if the file exploded.
Exploded?
So, that night, the bullet from the Skulkin brothers' gun struck Mr. Sholmes' pouch. And it was the glass file exploding that caused the fellow's injury. This bullet did not penetrate victim, but was deflected into wall of shop. Was it? Drink number 10? I did a delightfully complex aroma.
Well, it would appear one mystery has been solved, at least.
Well, great, but can I look at the thing? Though it has no bearing on the truth of the case. You wanna bet, Baroque, that I'm just about to find that 1/3 bullet? And then flip your, testimony? Flip your claim? The bungling and burgling brothers shot the detective and the accused shot the pawnbroker. Bungling and burgling. The pertinent facts of the case remains unaltered. Ugh. But at least the mystery is solved. I can sleep easy tonight. Thank you, young man. Thank you very much. Glad I could help.
Due to its bearing on the conundrum just solved, the court will question this scruffy pouch as evidence.
Hurley's pouch isn't scruffy.
So, Sholmes' pouch. The pouch Mr. Sholmes was wearing around his waist at the time of the shooting. One of the glass files is smashed and there's scorch marks around it.
No, the summation examination. It would appear the defense is somewhat struggling to alter opinion,
Please, my lord, a little more time. After all, the new piece of evidence, that's a new piece of evidence. It could be a valuable clue, and you can't afford to overlook anything here, Ryunosuke. There's still a way to turn this around. Somehow. I'm sure of it. Yeah, we got this. It's really scorched badly, just here.
Oh, the strap is broken, look!
This must be where the bullet hit, then.
Let me see.
Surprise! Hey, Baroque, I found your bullet! I found the 3rd bullet! What the? Iris, look! Behind where the broken file was. Do you see it?
Oh, that's the Skulkin brothers' bullet!
What a stroke of luck that it hit his pouch. This is an amazing discovery. What this means is, there were 3 bullets fired at Winnie Banks that night.
We found exactly what that juror was talking about. The 3rd bullet.
It's time to press that juror again, I think. Absolute confidence. 3rd bullet. A projectile we discovered lodged in Mr. Sholmes' pouch. It caused one of the files to explode, injuring Mr. Sholmes. Give me that bullet. I got the bullet. Hello! Let's press again.
Hold it!
Allow me to show you then the 3rd bullet. Bing!
Take that!
Here it is. We discover it just now. Yes, on the night in question in Winnie Banks' pawnbrokery, another bullet was fired.
Hold it!
He said hold it! Ooh! Baruch just said hold it! What is this new trickery, you Nipponese conjurer? Where did you find that bullet? It was lodged inside Mr. Sholmes' pouch. For the other 14 What? This pouch was removed from around Mr. Sholmes' waist before he was taken to hospital. Hi, Dixity! And since then, it has been touched by no one.
Do you mean to say the shot fired by Sulky brothers that night?
Yes, as your lordship has surmised, it hit this pouch.
But that makes no sense whatsoever. We already know the whereabouts of the bullet fired at Mr. Sholmes. It's clearly visible in this photographic print.
2 guns from the scene have already been submitted into the court record as evidence.
Yes, that of Mr. Winniebank and that belonging to the Sulky brothers.
Oh my god! God! You had to make that joke! Oh, that's good. Okay, that was good. The exhibit. I need a drink. That's a good joke. I applaud you. The examination of both guns reveal that only a single bullet had been fired from each. But that must mean there was a 3rd gun. That's right. We now know that on the night in question, 3 bullets were fired. Don't apologize! However, only 2 bullets were fired from the guns recovered from the crime scene. And until that incontrovertible inconsistency is somehow explained, we cannot and must not pass judgment. Ugh. Yeah, I got your Oh, damage! Damage, Baruch! Bam! I got him good!
Order! While the summation examination remains incomplete, the court has been presented with new facts. Facts that would appear to shake the very foundations upon which the case against the defendant has been built. As is my prerogative in this situation, I hereby temporarily suspend the summation examination.
By Jupiter! What?
Bailiff, bring the witnesses back to the stand at once.
Wow, we are suspending. Okay, I forgot this was happening. I forgot that happened. The judge is just like,
Oh no, we don't need no summation. We need answers. Witnesses. Governor, were you listening to proceedings while the defense carried out the summation examination?
We was, Governor. We was. Perhaps we can dispense with the tedious preamble. Simply answer this one question. A 3rd bullet has been identified at the scene of the crime. What do you make of that?
Make of it, Gov? I don't make nothing of nothing if I can't help it.
Is it one of yours?
Go blimey, Gov. Go blimey. Not a chance.
In that case, did you have an accomplice?
What? What? Never. The Sulky brothers work alone. It was just the 2 of us. That's our trademark.
How soon we forget poor Sulky. Only 2 of the bullets from the crime scene originated from the firearms we have in evidence. The 3rd bullet was fired from another gun. Where is it?
Lummy, that's a head scratcher. Counsel for the defense.
Yes?
I should like to hear your thoughts regarding these new developments. The third bullet, and the mysterious missing firearm from whence it came.
Thinking back over all the testimony we've heard and all the evidence we've seen, I think I'm starting to form a picture. A picture of what really happened that night. My lord, I think it's clear that this third bullet tells us about the Skulkin brothers. They had a secret accomplice. On that night at Windy Bank's pawnbrokery, the brothers must have been working with a third man. The witnesses are clearly doing their best to cover up the existence of this accomplice. But the evidence all points to the fact that there was someone else present. Someone carrying a gun. Rubble, 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 rubble.
Objection!
An accomplice, you say? Pig's will. These protracted proceedings have already forced us to endure 2 summation examinations. Ah, you poor baby. Yet in all that time, there has been not a murmur of a third man. If this apparently wraith-like being exists, the court must be shown hard evidence. Without it, this fantasy will be crushed. The prosecution demands answers on 2 counts. Firstly, proof, evidence, that this accomplice was ever at the scene of the crime. And secondly, the identity of this spurious character. The Skulkins are lying. I know that. But how can I ascertain the identity of the person they're hiding?
Well, Counsel.
I'm supposed to prove the existence of this accomplice and reveal the person's identity, even. In response to the prosecution's demands, my lord, the defense is ready to present answers? The defense is ready. I believe I can provide all the answers the prosecution demands. So, my Nipponese friend, despite the swimming eyes, you seem to think you have something to say. This promises to be interesting. I have to push forward now. There's no other option. I need to use every single piece of evidence available to me, if it will make a difference.
In that case, Counsel, I would ask you to present the evidence without delay. On the night in question, in the moments leading up to the death of the victim, what proof have you that there was a third intruder present at the scene?
Take that!
The evidence is right here, in this portfolio.
By Jove, that portfolio can, is it?
Do you expect the court to rifle through your papers itself? Be more specific. You claim one of those blood samples proves the presence of this third intruder. Well, which one is it? This one.
Take that!
Thank you.
What am I looking at here? There appears to be some green paint or such like around the bullet hole in the middle of the calendar.
That's a bloodstain, my lord.
A bloodstain?
Green blood. Curious, even for you. Is the court to understand that the intruder was some unhuman creature? That's something developed by Mr. Herlock Sholmes. By the great detective. New invention, stop. Not yet appeared in stories, stop.
It's this, you see. It doesn't have a name yet, though. This fogger sprays a chemical that reacts with different elements in people's blood to change its colors.
Different elements of people's blood?
Yes, everyone's blood is slightly different, you see, because it's made up of different elements. So by seeing what color it changes to, you can tell in a flash whose blood it is.
Ooh, that brings a whole new extra dimension to looking at blood. Talk of blood in courtroom, stop. Very exciting, stop. As an example, this one shows the blood of the victim, Mr. Windybank.
Ah, a striking blue.
Yes, so you see, the green color of this bloodstain on the calendar shows that somebody else was shot in the main part of the shop. Now hold fire there, young man. Could be from some unrelated incident, couldn't it? No, it's not related. It's not unrelated. The date showing on the calendar is the date on which Mr. Windybank was killed. By golly! Therefore, we can assume that whoever was shot on the same day.
Then whose blood is it?
Well, the Skulkin brothers in the stand don't appear to be suffering from any gunshot injuries. Which means it must be the blood of somebody else. The third intruder, in fact.
Objection!
Whose identity the court is still waiting to hear. You can't delay this any longer, my learned friend. Who is this alleged third intruder? This guy.
Take that!
The man's name is Edgar Benedict.
Edgar Benedict? Who on earth are you talking about, Counsel?
He paid a visit to Windybank's pawnbrokery on the afternoon before the incident took place. When the accused attempted to deceive the pawnbroker into releasing this article into her possession. That's right. The man identified by the defense, Mr. Edgar Benedict, then attempted to take the article from the defendant by force. Broker.
Huh? Oh, yes, sir.
I believe this filthy pocket thief has just redeemed an article from you, no?
Yes,
The article in question belongs to me. I demand for it to be returned at once.
Now that's a lie. What are you trying to pull?
Give me back my overcoat, you Westro, and needless to say, any music box disc, too. Well, I mean, it is the Victorian era. Maybe they just didn't have a term for it yet. Maybe. Or maybe they did, and this one just doesn't. It's fantastical. It's fantasy. Inspector Gregson was there at the time and can attest to what happened. In the end, it was the inspector himself who took the disc.
Can you corroborate this account, Inspector? Yes, my lord. That's more or less what happened. And in the interest of being thorough, I asked Windybank for a print showing the fellow. Take it from one of his red-handed recording gubbiness.
Yes, that's him talking to Mr. Windybank that morning.
And you claim this man is the brother's accomplice.
Well, Mr. Skulkin? I'm very close to saying Mr. and Mrs. Skulkin by accident.
Never seen a geezer before in me life. On me life, Gov. On me life. Never seen 'em.
Big fat lie.
Well, somewhat unsurprisingly, it appears our witnesses disagree with the assertion.
I'm sure your lordship recalls my learned Nipponese friend's actual assertion, which was that he could prove the identity of the alleged accomplice. Yes, and I can. Then show us the evidence. I agree. We must see proof that the clean-cut gentleman in the photograph is the filthy criminal you say he is. Do I share the music disc? I think I do. This is the last piece of evidence. I've had a feeling that something has been missing in this trial from the very start. But now, I'm gonna drag it kicking and screaming into the courtroom. Get him, Naruhodo!
Are you ready to present your answer to the court then, counsel?
Yes, my lord. The defense will present the evidence now. Proof that the man pictured in this photographic print was in fact the person struck by the third bullet.
Take that!
As I mentioned before, on the afternoon of the day in question, the defendant attempted, deceitfully admitted, to reclaim this disc from Windybanks.
Which is when the affirmation Edgar Benedict appeared on the scene, I believe. This man then attempted to purloin the article from the defendant's possession, no?
That's correct, my lord. I myself was present at the time. It was following this that a minor incident occurred. But of course, sir, here is the disc for you. Very well. Then I shall bid you farewell. Say goodbye to style. Wait a minute, that disc is mine!
What do you think you're doing, you little tramp? You've drawn blood, you filthy animal.
Being a music box disc, it has countless small but sharp metal protrusions over its surface. Those protrusions cause Mr. Benedict's finger to bleed. And the resulting smear of blood is still visible on the disc now.
Goodness, a blood stain, is it?
My assistant and I have just analyzed the blood stain here in this very courtroom.
Using my trusty fogger gun.
Yes, and we added the results to this portfolio. I say,
It's green.
it's exactly the same color as the blood around the calendar. The evidence is conclusive. The man calling himself Mr. Edgar Benedict, who was in Whitney Banks earlier in the day, is the accomplice who was present at the scene of the crime that same night. So there was someone else there.
Look at those two brothers now. They're sweating buckets.
Boy, who are you talking about? It's boiling in here. Is it hot in the freaking courtroom? Maybe you guys need to cut down some of the candles. My lord, it is the opinion of the defense that Mr. Edgar Benedict should be summoned to the courtroom to testify.
It would certainly seem that we can ill afford to ignore this gentleman's apparent presence.
Also, the judge must be sweating as heck in that case because he's between the scales.
Objection!
This has gone on long enough now. This flagrant ignorance of the mechanics of law. Sherlock Holmes, you say? Yes, I've heard the name. The protagonist in a series of short stories for the vulgar classes. A god of detection or some such. So does that make you a vulgar person because you know a quote from the stories, Baroque? Just saying. And now you employ chemical substances devised by this fantastical persona in the highest court in the land. Do you expect us to take you seriously? The samples made by this plaything are not fit to be called evidence. So the blood stain turned a shade of green. What of it? Here's to you successfully proving that no other blood in the world would turn the same color. Leg! And pray, do not even think of suggesting that we should take Mr. Sholmes' word for it.
Is he right? Is Mr. Sholmes' concoction a load of rubbish?
I don't know. I mean, he is a great detective.
What are you talking about? We can't let him get away with that! I knew it. I knew it would come to this. Of course, Mr. Sholmes' invention isn't going to be recognized by an official body. But what other choice did I have?
Huh. I'm just remembering what Father Christmas over there said.
He called him Father Christmas.
About how he was temporarily suspending the summation examination.
Oh!
In other words, the examination isn't over yet, is it?
Oh, good grief! What did you just say, young girl?
And in the summation examination, the decision as to whether or not the trial continues is in the hands of the 6 jurors, isn't it? So the way I see it, it doesn't matter what certain other people think of Hurley's inventions. At least, not for now.
Yes, she's right.
Young lady, you have quite the devious mind.
It really just comes down to one thing. Whether these ladies and gentlemen of the jury are convinced by what you say, Bruno.
Iris is dangerous.
Is that about right, would you say? Or did I misunderstand something?
Oh my god, Iris. Unbelievable. Mr. Sholmes' partner is a force to be reckoned with.
Iris Wilson, sharpshooter.
Oh, she's so good.
After that shrewd precise of the situation of an entirely unexpected source, it must be acknowledged that the previous summation examination has yet to reach its conclusion.
This is absurd.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the court now looks to you for your final leanings in this matter. As proud citizens of Her Majesty Britain, I'm sure you will come to fair and just conclusions. So then, state your final decisions in turn, please. Like, it doesn't even matter if it's not even Benedict. We still need to figure out what the third bullet is. So even if we ignore the Sherlock stuff, where did the third bullet come from? If anything, the jury will at least call for that to be, like, explained.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
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 Not guilty.
Well then, I thought we were going to straight up not guilty the whole way through. Two call guilty and 4 call not guilty. Such is the outcome of the summation examination.
Objection.
My lord, with all due respect, this is an outrage. The prosecution refuses to accept this decision. Hey, he said the line! He said the line that we see all the commercials or the ads. On what grounds? Excuse me, sir, we need to explain the third bullet. If these jurors are persuaded by some half-baked concoction devised by a pretender to real police work, then they are too ignorant to be trusted with the judgment of anyone's guilt. I'm sorry, Lord Van Zieks, but the outcome of the summation examination cannot be ignored. This trial will continue. Deal with it, sir. Ah! The Japanese have taken a mighty blow on him. Nevertheless, we find ourselves in a rather awkward situation. The defense has very reasonably requested the subpoena of a new witness. But sadly, I fear that will be impossible. What? The name the gentleman gave for himself, Edgar Benedict, is quite clearly false. I don't believe it. Just when I managed to prove the man was there that night. Could I say something? Who was that, please? Who spoke? It was me, my lord. Juror number 5? 5? What have you to say, madam? If possible, Inspector. Me, ma'am? I wonder if you might show the photographic print to me again. The one in which the gentleman is showed. Right, yes, this one, you mean. Of Mr. Benedict. Yes, there's no doubt in my mind. Juror number 5, you don't mean to say you know this man? Oh yes, I know him. What? No. Good gracious! Coincidence of further coincidence of the coincidence. Order, order, order! Juror number 5, how on earth? I'm a communication officer. Stop. As we can clearly see, the gentleman in the photograph is... Stop. Also a communications officer. Stop. He works in my office. Stop. What a coincidence! A very talented operator, in fact. Stop. He should be in the communication station now. Stop. Tapping away on the telegram. Stop. This doesn't seem right somehow. I can't put my finger on why, but it doesn't feel right.
I suppose we'll all imagine the accomplice would be some sort of hardened criminal. It's a bit unexpected to find out he has a respectable job by day, whatever he gets up to at night.
Yes, I suppose that's it. I suppose that's why I felt something was wrong. If the gentleman is a London communication station, at the London's communication station, we should be able to subpoena him within the hour. Lord Van Zieks, if you please. Yes, my lord. Make the necessary arrangements with all haste. As your lordship bids. The court will recess for 1 hour, which is another to be continued. When the new witness arrives, we shall reconvene to hear the gentleman's testimony. Inspector Gregson. Yes, my lord. I should like to hear from you specifically about events at the pawnbrokery on the day in question. Come to my chambers during the recess. Yes, sir, my lord. Very well. Court is adjourned until 1:40 p.m. Bing! That's it! A to be continue has been reached.
And we're going to stop there and continue the rest of this tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Do not want to start